Okay, so ready to dive in. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty foundational, I think, to just how we navigate the world, and that's confidence.
Okay.
And we've got a really cool source to kind of work with today. It's actually a transcript from a podcast called the English Leap podcast
Okay.
on the Speak English with Class channel.
Mm-hmm.
Their episode is called How to Build Confidence from Scratch. And they get into some really good stuff, I think, that we can all relate to. Just these everyday habits that can really kind of chip away at your self-belief without you even realizing it.
Right.
And so our mission today is to extract some of those really powerful key insights and figure out how we can tackle them.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's not just about kind of massive life changes or anything like that, but just these smaller habits
Right.
that, we repeat often, every day maybe.
Exactly.
And Evan and Aaron, who are the hosts of that podcast,
Yeah.
they do a really good job of kind of bringing it to life with personal examples of how these things can kind of chip away at your confidence.
Yeah.
And they offer some really practical starting points for how to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, Charlotte actually does a breakdown of some of the vocabulary and phrases as well in the transcript. So
That's all.
we'll weave that in as we go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump right in.
All
So
right.
Evan and Aaron kind of kick things off by just emphasizing how easily confidence can be undermined. Not even necessarily by these massive failures, but just those little things that we do again and again.
Right.
The first one they hone in on is this tendency to really get caught up in what other people think. And oh my gosh, I know that I've been there and I bet you have too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is.
And what they do a really good job of is actually like bringing it to life with these scenarios that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Yes.
Like Aaron gives this example of being in a meeting and having an idea and then kind of hesitating to say it
Right.
because he was worried about what people would think.
Yeah.
And then someone else said the exact same thing,
Of course.
2 minutes later and got all the credit.
Yeah.
And it's just like that sting of regret. I think a lot of people have felt that.
Absolutely.
So that's something that really, kind of brings it home. And then like the core insight there, I think, is that, if you're constantly seeking validation from other people,
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to feel insecure because you're basing your sense of self on something that you can't fully control.
Right. Right. It's external.
Yeah.
Yeah. Takes me right back to being a teenager,
Oh, yeah.
just trying to fit in so badly.
Yeah.
And, both Aaron and Evan admit to like changing their behavior just to try to be accepted.
Totally.
Aaron said he pretended to be a rugby fan. Right.
Yep.
It's kind of funny now, but really shows how much energy we waste sometimes trying to be someone we're not just to get that approval from others.
Yeah. And I think if we connect that to kind of a broader idea,
Yeah.
it's that like, when you're so focused on pleasing others, it can actually distract you from understanding and valuing your own beliefs and your own desires.
Yes.
Like Evan and Aaron touch on this idea that you can basically end up living a life that isn't really yours.
Right.
Which, that's inevitably going to breed insecurity.
Yeah.
So I think the big takeaway for people there is, the importance of identifying what they call like your internal compass.
Yes. Absolutely.
What really matters to you.
Yes. What are your values?
Exactly.
What do you believe in? Okay, so then what can we do about this?
Yeah.
They actually have a really, I think, practical kind of action step here, and that is to really focus on your own values and beliefs. They even recommend writing them down.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Because it's such a good reminder that, trying to please everyone is just a losing game.
Yeah, you can't please everyone.
No.
And I think this ties into the concept of authenticity.
Yeah.
When you're acting in line with your values and what you genuinely believe in, it creates a much stronger sense of self.
From within. Yeah.
From the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, living authentically isn't just about kind of like being true to yourself.
Right.
It's a really powerful foundation for lasting confidence.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So another kind of subtle confidence killer that they talk about is,
Yeah.
that inner critic we all have, that voice in our head that can be so negative.
Yeah. The negative thinking spiral.
Yes.
We've all been there.
We have.
And what I think is really insightful here is that both Evan and Aaron actually share personal stories about shifting their negative thinking patterns.
Yeah. Cool.
Like Evan talks about learning to play guitar
Mm-hmm.
and how he initially thought like, oh, I could never do that,
Yeah.
but he actually, was able to change that mindset.
Nice.
And that's really encouraging because it shows that, those feelings of I can't,
Yeah.
they're not set in stone.
They can be changed, yeah,
They can be changed, yeah. And they highlight, the first step is just becoming aware of those negative thoughts as they're happening.
as they come up, yeah.
Yeah, you have to kind of catch them in the act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not just about noticing them, it's about actually doing something about them, right?
Right. It's not enough to just sort of observe them.
Yeah,
You have to actually make a conscious effort to shift them.
yeah.
And so what they talk about is this idea of replacing those negative self-statements
Mm-hmm.
with positive ones,
Yeah.
which they call positive affirmations.
Yes.
And, Evan's journey with public speaking is another really good example of this.
Oh, yeah, he used to hate it, right?
Yeah, he used to be terrified of public speaking.
Yeah.
And by kind of shifting his internal dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
he was able to actually get better at it
That's awesome.
and, gain confidence in that area. So
Yeah.
it really shows that it's possible to make that change.
Yeah, and I love that they emphasize that this is a process, right?
Yeah.
This is something that takes time and effort.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No, you have to be patient.
Yeah, you have to be patient with yourself. And it's really about kind of like training your inner voice over time.
Yes, retraining it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the world of social media.
Okay.
Because I think we've all experienced this and maybe haven't even fully realized its effects.
Right.
It's those social media comparisons.
Yeah, the comparison trap.
Yeah.
It's everywhere these days.
It is. And what I think is so fascinating about the way Evan and Aaron talk about this is they really kind of clearly point out the fact that social media is curated.
Yes. It's all about the highlight reel.
It is. It's not real life.
Yeah. You're seeing the perfect vacations,
Mm-hmm.
the seemingly flawless lives.
Yes.
And, it makes it so easy to compare yourself
Yes.
to this unrealistic standard.
And feel bad about yourself.
Exactly. And Evan tells this really funny story about spending an hour trying to get the perfect picture of his breakfast,
Oh my gosh, yes.
which, just really highlights the discrepancy between what's presented online
Yeah.
and what's actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So relatable, though. I mean,
Totally.
we've all been there trying to get that perfect shot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think the big takeaway here is this reminder that social media very rarely,
Mm-hmm.
if ever, shows the full picture.
Yeah, it's just a snapshot.
Yeah. And everyone, no matter how perfect their feed may look, has their own struggles.
Exactly. Everyone's dealing with something.
Yeah. You don't see that.
You don't see the behind the scenes.
No.
So it's, kind of damaging to base your worth on these filtered glimpses into other people's lives.
Yes, totally. And so what do we do about it?
Well, Evan and Aaron suggest a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, limiting your time on social media,
Yes.
like actually setting timers on your apps
Yeah.
can be surprisingly effective.
It really is.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah. And also just like kind of developing a more critical eye,
Mhm.
reminding yourself that what you're seeing is not the whole truth.
Yes.
And then, really focusing on your own achievements.
Celebrating those.
Yeah, celebrating your own milestones
Yeah.
rather than focusing on what other people seem to be accomplishing.
Yes.
That's really important for building your own confidence.
Okay, so last but certainly not least of these kind of subtle habits they discuss is this concept of rumination.
Oh, yeah. The endless replay.
Yes, just playing things over and over again in your head.
Oh, yeah, especially like past mistakes or negative experiences.
Oh, I've been there.
Oh, yeah. We've all had those moments.
Especially awkward conversations, just like,
Oh, God, yeah, just like cringing.
why did I say that?
I can't believe I did that.
Yes, exactly.
And, Aaron, he gives a really good example
Okay.
of saying something in a meeting that he thought was silly
Mm.
and then just not being able to let it go.
Yeah.
Just replaying it over and over.
Yeah, and Evan shares about like tripping on stage.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all have those moments
We've all been there.
that we would just rather forget.
Totally.
But I think the big insight here is recognizing how unproductive that is.
It's not helping you.
No, it's just keeping you stuck.
Yeah, and actually they point out that the real danger is that it can actually make you afraid to try new things.
Oh, yeah, because you don't want to make that mistake again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're so scared of repeating that mistake
Yeah.
that you just avoid putting yourself out there.
And that just holds you back.
It holds you back, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really important to find healthier ways to process those experiences.
Yes, absolutely. So what do they suggest?
Well, instead of kind of getting stuck in that rumination cycle,
Mm-hmm.
Evan and Aaron recommend actually focusing on solutions.
Yeah.
Like, what can I learn from this mistake?
Okay.
How could I do better next time?
I like that.
And then also they talk about self-compassion.
Yes,
which is so important.
it is.
It's basically being kind to yourself.
Yeah, giving yourself a break.
Yeah, like you would to a friend.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they also talk about like setting new goals
Okay.
and taking action.
Yeah.
Even small steps can help you kind of break free from that mental loop of the past.
Right, right. So we've unpacked all of these kind of subtle, almost unconscious habits, I think, that can really chip away at our
Yes.
confidence.
Yeah.
Now let's move into some maybe slightly more everyday habits
Okay.
that are maybe a little more obvious, but still have this huge impact on how we feel about ourselves.
Right.
So the first one they talk about is self-deprecating talk.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people use humor in this way,
Yeah.
but maybe it has this hidden cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely something to be mindful of.
It is.
And, what's interesting here is that they actually make a distinction between negative thinking,
Okay.
which is that internal monologue of self-criticism,
Yeah.
and self-deprecating talk, which is when you actually voice those negative thoughts out loud,
Okay.
often in the form of a joke.
So it's not just thinking, I'm not good at this. It's actually saying it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So it's not just, in your head.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually putting it out there for other people to hear.
Yeah.
And, the key point here is that even though it might be intended as a joke,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually reinforce those negative beliefs,
Yeah.
both for yourself
And how other people see you. Yeah.
and how other people perceive you exactly.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're giving yourself this constant negative feedback loop,
Yeah.
and then eventually you start to believe it.
It becomes true.
Yeah, and as they mentioned, sometimes other people might not even realize it's a joke,
Yeah.
and they might just take those remarks at face value.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point.
So I think it raises this really important point about the language we use about ourselves.
Yeah.
Evan and Aaron suggest being much more mindful of that
Okay.
and actually making an effort to shift to more positive
Okay.
and growth-oriented language.
I love that. Yeah.
So instead of saying, I'm terrible at presentations, you can say something like, I'm working on improving my presentation skills.
It's a little shift, but it's a powerful one.
It's subtle, but it's really powerful.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. So next, they talk about this really common habit of blaming others when things go wrong.
Oh, yeah, the blame game.
The blame game. Yes. So easy to fall into that trap.
It is. It is.
So what do we do about that?
Well, I think what Evan and Aaron really emphasize
Mm-hmm.
is that while external factors can definitely play a role in setbacks,
Of course. Yeah.
if you're constantly blaming other people for your difficulties, it prevents you from taking responsibility for your own actions.
Yes.
And that lack of ownership is what ultimately hinders your growth.
It keeps you stuck.
Yeah, and it erodes your confidence.
Because you feel like you have no control.
Exactly, because you feel like you're at the mercy of these outside forces.
Yeah.
So the key takeaway here is that there's actually a lot of power in taking ownership.
Yes. It's about recognizing that you do have agency.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can actually influence the situation.
Yeah, and they offer this really great strategy for kind of counteracting that tendency to blame,
Okay. I like it.
which is to just take a moment to reflect on your role in the situation and ask yourself, what could I have done differently?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
And it really shifts your focus from placing blame
Yeah.
to finding opportunities for learning and growth.
It's empowering.
Yeah, it's empowering. And it's a huge confidence builder.
It is. It is. Okay. So last one I want to touch on is this habit of setting low expectations.
Okay?
And this one really hits home for me because I think sometimes I've done this where I've actually held myself back because I was afraid of not meeting some kind of standard.
Yeah, that fear of failure can be so paralyzing.
It can.
And you know what Evan and Aaron point out is that when you aim too low,
Mm-hmm.
like when you have that mindset of, I'll just try to get by,
Right.
it actually limits your potential.
You're selling yourself short.
You're selling yourself short, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're missing out on the opportunity for growth.
And the confidence that comes with it.
Exactly. And the confidence that comes with achieving something that you really challenged yourself to do.
Yes. So how do we break out of this habit?
Well, they recommend setting goals that are realistic,
Okay.
but still challenging.
So find that balance.
Yeah, find that sweet spot where you're pushing yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still something that you can achieve with effort.
Right.
And then perhaps, even more importantly, make sure you're acknowledging
Yes.
and celebrating your progress along the way.
Yes. No matter how small.
Yeah, even those small wins are worth celebrating
Totally.
because it reinforces that sense of accomplishment.
And that builds confidence.
Exactly.
Okay. So before we wrap things up,
Mm-hmm.
The transcript actually has this really cool part where Charlotte breaks down
Oh, yeah.
some of the key vocabulary and phrases that come up.
Yeah. I think it's really helpful to kind of go over some of those.
Let's do it just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay, so she starts by defining confidence simply as a belief in yourself and your abilities.
Right? Straightforward.
Yeah, and habits as those regular actions that we often do without even thinking about them.
Yeah, those automatic behaviors.
Yeah. And then she goes on to clarify figure out as just meaning, to understand or to solve something.
Right.
And that phrase, without even knowing, really highlights how these confidence-eroding behaviors can be happening totally on autopilot.
Yeah, we're not even aware of them sometimes.
We're not.
Yeah.
Okay, so she also defines being our best selves as acting in the best way that we can.
Right, living up to our potential.
Yeah, and then that key idea that these habits can really undermine our confidence,
Mm-hmm.
Essentially weaken our self-belief.
Chip away at it.
Yeah, and then holding us back, preventing progress.
Yeah, keeping us stuck.
Stuck, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so then she talks about the concept of seeking approval, looking for acceptance from other people,
Mm.
which ties back to our conversation about, worrying too much about what others think.
Yeah. It's all connected.
It is, and then self-doubt, that feeling of not believing in yourself.
Right.
That's what we're trying to overcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and then she covers fit in, wanting to belong,
Mm-hmm.
and the potential dangers of living someone else's life.
Right, instead of being true to yourself.
Instead of being true to yourself, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then moving into more like mindset stuff.
Okay.
She defines negative thinking
Mm-hmm.
and that empowering potential of positive affirmation.
Right, yeah, those positive self-statements.
Yes, and then what it means to dwell on negative experiences,
Mm-hmm.
the impact of self-deprecating talk,
Right.
and then how setting low expectations can really limit us.
Yeah, compared to striving for excellence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally she touches on how taking ownership of our actions really empowers us.
Yeah, gives us that sense of control.
Yes, the importance of reflecting on our experiences
Mm-hmm.
and how achieving goals, even small ones, can really boost our confidence.
Yeah, those small wins add up
They do.
over time.
I love that summary of the vocabulary.
Yeah, it's really comprehensive.
It is. It really helps to kind of like solidify these concepts in my mind.
It does, yeah. It just, underscores how these seemingly small shifts in our awareness and our language can make such a big difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to recap,
Cool.
our deep dive today, we've taken a close look at those really subtle confidence-eroding habits like worrying about others' opinions,
Mm-hmm.
the power of negative thinking, that comparison trap of social media,
Right.
and then the unproductive nature of rumination.
Yeah.
We then explored, those everyday habits that can hold us back.
Mm-hmm.
Things like self-deprecating talk, playing the blame game, and then setting low expectations for ourselves.
Yeah.
And as we've seen, all of these often unconscious patterns can have a huge impact on our self-belief.
Yeah, they really can.
Yeah.
So, taking all of that into consideration,
Mm.
I think a good question for everyone listening is to ask themselves,
Yeah.
which of these habits really resonates with me,
Yeah.
in my life right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then what's one small concrete change I can make?
Yes.
Whether it's in my thinking or my behavior,
This week.
yeah, this week, to kind of start building a stronger foundation of confidence.
I love that. That's a great challenge for everyone listening.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
This was great.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I always enjoy chatting with you about this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
it is.
All right.
Well, take care.
You too. Bye.